So welcome to our 10-minute technical. It's where we take a more in-depth look at a shot in tennis. We might go through grips, technical, tactical benefits. We're going to look at footwork. It's where we have a real close look at a shot in tennis and really get involved in it. So let's dive in. So the first thing we're going to look at is actually the grip. We use a chopper grip on the volley. It's really important we get that right. One of the main reasons why is, when I come to the net in tennis and I want to volley, I'm actually closer to my opponent. And that's going to give me less time. So the last thing I want to do while I've got less time and that ball's coming at me really quick, last thing I want to do is kind of messing around with different grips. I just want one grip where I can volley on both sides of the body. That's where that chopper grip comes in. So it's really important I get a good grip change and I get to that chopper grip. The other benefit of using a chopper grip on a volley is actually when we volley, we do have a slightly open racket face. We're going to want that bottom edge of the racket head coming through to meet the ball first, because on the volley, we do sometimes like to get a little hint of slice maybe. So it's really important we get that open racket face, which, if I was using a semi-western forehand or whatever, as you can see, the racket face is closed there. Now, first of all, that's going to make the ball go down, so I don't want that. So it's so important I get into that chopper grip so I can volley the same on both sides. And as I said, I want that open racket face, so I'm getting that front edge coming through, which is going to give me a little hint of slice on the volley. Next important thing with the volley is actually there's a slight change in ready position. If you watch pros at the back of the court when they're kind of receiving or in a rally, the ready position is quite calm. It's quite low down here. One of the most important things when I volley, which we'll take a look at in a minute, is actually that I always want the racket head to be higher than my wrist. It's really important that. So what you'll see the best volleyers do is not only do they change grip to chopper, like we mentioned, but they'll get a higher ready position. So they'll really get that racket head up in front of their face like that. Because, again, if the ball's coming at me quick and I've got my racket head down low, I'm just giving myself more work to do to get the racket head up. If I'm already in this kind of high racket head position, then it's such an easier movement to get the racket there. It just makes it more functional. I don't have to take so much time to get that racket up. Ball comes at me, bang, I've got that racket head ready to go. The final thing we'll look at before we actually look at the volley itself, which is arguably the most important thing you'll ever do when you volley, is the split step. When you come to the net in tennis, you are putting your opponent in a tricky position. You're backing them into the corner. The last thing you're going to try and do is be nice and give you an easy volley. If they're a smart player, they're going to understand that my opponent's at the net. If I give them an easy volley, they're going to kill it. So actually, if I'm coming forward to the net, they're going to try and do something aggressive, whether that's they're going to pass you, so they're going to go either side, whether they're going to go at your toes and make you volley up, whether they're going to go at your face and try and take you out, or whether they're going to lob you. But if you've got to think, that's a lot of court to cover. I've got the wings, I've got my feet, I've got my face, and I've got the lob. So what's so important is just before they're making contact with the ball, I'm getting that athletic split step in, which is going to give me that ability to move left, right, backwards, forwards, whatever I need to do. So making sure, as I'm running in, I'm watching the racket head of my opponent, and just before they hit it, I'm getting that athletic split step, which then with that racket head up, which is then going to give me the ability to move in any direction I need to. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the footwork now. We'll discover this in a minute when we have a look, but basically the two main sources of power on a volley are actually the ball that's coming at you, so the ball that's been hit by my opponent. The other one is actually, my body weight going into the ball. Like I said, we'll have a look in a second, but we don't actually have much racket work on a volley. The racket work's really simple. We don't swing like we do on a normal ball to get the pace. The racket work's really simple. So if I do want to get some power behind the ball, like I said, one of them is a ball coming at me, but the other is stepping into the ball. So getting my opposite leg going forward to the ball and getting my weight into it. Now, the way we do on the volley is we do what's called a two-step. So like I said earlier, I've got that athletic split step in. The first thing I do then, depending if it's on the forehand or backhand, is I actually want to open up the toe. So once I've landed on that split step, say it's a forehand volley for me, you know, I'm going to open up that toe here, which allows me to load that leg. And then now I can really step into the volley and move forward to it and crunch it. Similar to the backhand again, I'd do my athletic split step. I would open up the toe, that's the one step. And then the two step is to go forward to the ball, which really gets my body weight going forward, which is going to give me that lovely power as I step in. Okay, so now we've looked at, we've looked at the grip, the ready position, we've looked at that athletic split step, and we looked at that two step, making sure we're moving into the volley. Let's have a little look at the racket work itself. Like I said earlier, we want a higher ready position, and this is going to really help us because when we volley, we like to have this kind of V shape here. So the racket head coming down to the wrist and then up to my shoulder. The reason why is, again, if I'm at the net, it's very likely someone might hit the ball really hard at me. What I need is a strong position in the wrist where actually that wrist can take a lot of the pace of the ball. Because like I said, I'm not going to swing. So I've got to try and almost block that ball. If I'm in this position here, which I see a lot of people do with the volley where there's kind of straight line, that wrist is a little weak. It's not going to be able to take the pace very well. Whereas if I get into this V position here where the racket head is above the wrist, now, I'm firm. I'm in a really firm position here where I can take that pace. And I know it might sound difficult to understand, but in this V shape, what I'm really trying to achieve is I want a firm wrist, but I want my fingers to be nice and soft because I'm going to need to work with that pace of the ball as it comes in. The final thing now is actually looking at the kind of contact itself. So, we've got everything prepared. We've got that racket head up. We've got the grip right. The split step is athletic. I've used my two step, got my V shape with my firm wrist, my soft hands. The last thing is actually to look at the contact point itself. Now, most coaches will say, we don't swing, we block the ball. And that's kind of true. But there is a little motion on the volley. The problem is where it gets tricky with that is that if you introduce the idea of a motion, a lot of people start to swing or they'll drag it. If they swing, often the ball will be overhit. If they drag it down, the ball's going to go in the net. So I think a healthy way to look at it is, once I've done that two step and I'm moving forward to the ball, I just want to get that bottom edge of the racket head going through to meet the ball first. So just a little forward motion with that bottom edge of the racket head coming through. That's going to give me that nice kind of punchy feel to the volley, which will make it zip through the court. And it might just give me that teeny little hint of slice, which means that when it lands, it's going to kind of skid through. The tricky bit with adding slice to the volley sometimes for a lot of people is they over slice it and maybe they come under the ball too much. So by that, I mean, they open the racket face up and come under the ball and it pops the ball up. That's not good. If I'm popping the ball up in the air, that's going to give them time. And then I'm kind of stood at the net in a really vulnerable position and they can just slot it past me. So it's obviously having good hand skills, like I said, those soft hand skills to understand the angle of the strings, what I want. But it's just making sure I get that right bottom edge coming through, which is going to keep the ball low and keep it zippy. Okay, so that was our 10-minute technical on the volley today. And, went through quite a lot of content. So just to kind of summarize, we looked at that grip change to start with, making sure we're using the chopper grip to simplify using the same grip on both sides. We looked at the higher ready position, which is really important. Again, just simplifies things, means that when the ball's coming at me quick, I've got that racket up in front of me. We looked at this athletic split step, which is going to give me that ability to move right, left, down, up, whatever happens on the passing shot. We then looked at the footwork, so that kind of two step, so loading the outside leg so I can move forward to the ball to get that power on the volley if I need it. We looked at the V shape, which is really important. So getting that racket head above the wrist, so I'm in a nice firm wrist position, but then making sure the hands are soft at the same time so I can work with the pace of the ball. And finally, we looked at the bottom edge of the racket head coming through, which is just going to give us that little hint of slice with that open racket face. You know, like I said, not too much. I don't want to pop the ball up, but I want to make sure I've got the correct angle on the string, so that bottom edge of the racket head's coming through, which is going to be that teeny bit of slice, which is going to make that ball skid through the court and stay low and make difficult for my opponent. Thanks so much for tuning in. You know, we're going to do a lot more of these 10-minute technical videos, so stay tuned for more videos.